This is a free sample of the book, Reinvent Ideal, What to Do When You're Depressed and No One Cares Because You're Not a Chick, by Cairo Copeland. The first half of this book is posted right here on YouTube, free for everyone to listen to. If you like this content and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/ideal. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/ideal.
Chapter 7. Working your life away at a job you hate. Many guys are driven to the edge every day at their jobs. You have menial tasks assigned to you that an unpaid intern could do. You're forced to do work that's beneath you just because the managers and overlords don't want to do it. It's bitch work. Paid very little. Myths of opportunity are dangled in front of you like a carrot on a stick. Your boss is an incompetent moron that regularly shits on you. When you make a mistake, you're called an idiot, but when they make a mistake, they're only human. What's making all of this worse is that no matter what they're paying you, they're making more. The old adage of boss makes $1 while I make a dime is true. They wouldn't bring you on unless you were making more money for them than they were paying you. It's just good business sense, so you know you're worth more than you're getting. But worst of all is the trading of time for dollars. Whether it be salary or hourly wage, the boss is saying, I can buy your time for a few dollars an hour and replace you at any time. When the wage is just enough to get by, you realize after years that you've pissed away most of your life working to make someone else rich instead of yourself. How can there possibly be a positive way to look at this? Well, for starters, there's not a single likable person in this world that didn't once work a job they hated, and we're all better people for working jobs that suck. I worked in the kitchen in restaurants like Applebee's and Chili's. As much as I hated it, I'm glad I did it. After spending years working in hot restaurant kitchens, getting yelled at through the window, remaking a dish for the 5th time because the guest doesn't think it's good gourmet, yet they came here to Applebee's to eat, and all the while sweating my butt off made me learn to appreciate the first office job I got many years later on, where I sat in an ergonomically correct chair in an air-conditioned office. If this awesome job was the first one I ever got at age 18, I couldn't have appreciated it. I might have gotten ticked off over some small thing that probably doesn't even faze me now, and then quit, and then become miserable because I'd never get a job that was that good again. When I was in college and working full-time at Applebee's, nothing got me angrier than the spoiled rich kids that didn't have to work. So they went to Spain or France for the summer to study abroad. They studied artisan latte making or professional wine tasting in Europe, while I studied burger flipping in Hell's Kitchen. Then, when they came back to school the next semester, they'd throw temper tantrums over things like their smartphone not getting enough Wi-Fi signal, while I still had a flip phone, or never having enough time to do all the fun things they wanted to do, while I thought time was standing still during my work shifts. Now, I don't begrudge a man his wealth. The point I'm making is that these experiences made me better off, because when I could finally afford a smartphone and some time off to have fun, I forced myself to never complain about anything in any way that vaguely resembles the way they complained. Because no matter what irritant or inconvenience you're facing, there's always someone else that has it worse, and they could be nearby listening. Somebody somewhere in a position of power decided that manual labor is something that everybody should be ashamed of, and forced everyone to think that way too, despite the fact that there's something far more valuable to be learned in doing repetitive, undesirable, annoying tasks for pitiful wages than there is in learning anything about artistic snobbery. You'll notice that when you do rough work with your hands, they begin to build up calluses. That's basically nature protecting the sensitive areas of our hands with these wounds, scabs, and blisters. Perhaps in the same way, when we do repetitive manual labor, mental calluses and blisters form on our brains and make us tougher at handling the undesirable tasks of awful jobs. But the more important reason to desire undesirable labor and work it as early as possible is that in the end, the slacker must work 4 times as hard. Case in point, I started working when I was 15 years old and worked all throughout college. My first job was working for a hot dog stand, and I eventually moved up into the world of life insurance. By the time I graduated, I had 10 years work experience. So while I wasn't working desirable jobs, I was always able to find jobs. But another fellow I knew from college, let's call him Stan, he didn't start working for his first job until after he graduated with his master's degree at age 25. During his collegiate days, he partied like a rich kid and lived off student loans, so he wasn't really a rich kid. When he was searching for his first job, his education was revealed to be irrelevant and was rejected time and time again because he had no working experience. He had to start all the way at the bottom, working at hot dog stands, a hurdle I crossed early on when I was 15. Had he not been lazy, had he worked as early as I did, he could have gone on to a real career at the same age as me. Now, none of this is to pick on poor Stan or puff myself up as so much better than him, but to make that point that the slacker must work 4 times as hard in the end. Stan will have to hustle and bustle through life in order to catch up to where he should be. It was 10 years of working before he got a job with a retirement plan, with which he'll have to work 4 times as hard to get it funded sufficiently for retirement. It was 10 more years before he could buy a house. It was 10 more years before he could take a paid vacation. Those 10 years could have been over with earlier. To further illustrate this point, look at the educational endeavors I took versus someone else. In this one, I took the lazy way out by pursuing a useless, easy degree in acting. I liked money a lot, so human nature's work avoidance motive didn't hold sway over me when it came to getting a job, but I hated school and homework, so it did work on me when it came to studying. However, another collegiate classmate of mine, let's call him Sam, studied something different and useful, accounting. After college, I paid the price of my foolish choice of pursuing acting when the only job I could get was cleaning carpets. When Sam graduated, around the same time, he stepped into a 5-figure salaried job. 4 years later, he was making 6 figures. 10 years later, his retirement account was 7 figures. Me? I had to work 4 times as hard to catch up in order to pay the price for my early laziness. Do not be discouraged when you find yourself constantly doing undesirable hard work. It's part of life, and it's best to get it all out of the way as soon as possible. Yes, there are people you see who seem to be living more privileged lives, not having to do hard work, but one day they will have to pay the price for their laziness. The reality principle always wins in the end. When worst comes to worst, work at McDonald's if you have to, because with the right attitude and work ethic, you'll be a manager in a year. A previous girlfriend of mine was one of those Instagram superstars and OnlyFans maven. She made enough money from those outlets to pay for her living expenses. It seemed like an awesome, simple life where all she had to do was take sexy pictures of herself and get paid. But much of this money went to bills and frivolities. None of it went to retirement accounts, health savings accounts, or even just plain old savings accounts. I tried to bring this to her attention, but she got upset that I was judging her, so we broke up. I knew she would be in for a rude awakening someday. I just didn't know how soon. Not long after we broke up, she had an emergency hospital visit that put her deep in debt. Worse, her competition on OnlyFans ticked up, biting into her sales. And worst of all, she only has a limited window of time to make money from the outlet because her beauty fades with aging. Now, she learned the hard way that the slacker must work 4 times as hard in the end. Do not envy these people. They will later envy you for your intelligent decision to get the hard work out of the way in life early on. Further, we've been marketed a lie that our jobs should be enjoyable and even impactful on the world. We feel like failures when they turn out to be difficult and meaningless. But that's the nature of work. It's not supposed to be fun because work is the opposite of fun. The purpose of work is to do enough of it early on so you can not only afford to have fun, but enjoy it far more than you would have. Long-term success in a career field is a lot like making goodies with baking powder. It's slow, it's mundane, and a long process with only millimeters of progress stacking up at a time. But these are the seeds of long-term success in all aspects of life. Not everyone will have hit the career lottery by majoring in the right thing at the right time or being trained in a rare skill that's in high demand. But in today's world, you don't have to be exceptionally brilliant. You need only to be slightly better than the competition and be slightly better for a long time. We find ourselves envious of the guys that got into the right career at the right time, or worse, the guys that love the work that they get to do. They seem to have found their calling, and we feel either left out of one or denied ours. So many millennials are unhappy because they were raised to believe that they should seek meaningful work and make that the focus of their lives. Had they sought after less sexy work, but did it diligently and persevered, they may have ended up further ahead with better lives. They were told to follow their passion, when they should have been told to bring their passion with them to everything they do. That is how you find happiness today, putting focus on the activity or input instead of the output, the success. Do not hold out for a calling. It's a romanticized fantasy that occurs only in movies and fiction. Instead, be drawn to the things that you can do well over the things you'd like to do. For me, my calling was to be an actor. Had I continued to pursue that foolish endeavor, I would have ended up being a homeless bum in Los Angeles. But because I embraced my skill of writing and coaching, you have this book before you today. And don't be fooled by the glamour. The work I do today is not always glamorous. There are some clients whose coaching session I dread having because it's extremely difficult to get them to understand a certain concept that's obvious to me, like doing the work. And while writing, there are many times where I'm just facing the blank page and beating myself up for not having instantly brilliant prose flowing out of me like struck oil from the ground. Everything worth doing is difficult.
Thank you for listening to this free sample of the book, Reinvent Ideal: What to Do When You're Depressed and No One Cares Because You're Not a Chick, by Cairo Copeland. If you enjoyed it and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/ideal. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/ideal.